If you have a broken process to begin with, slapping an AI agent on top of it, you're not necessarily going to get the end result you want.
We just live in this constant change. Before, you could say, okay, there's this new technology came out. It's going to take us, I don't know, maybe a year to adapt. But now, never-ending change. We just live in it. We try to get comfortable there.
It can be learned. It can be developed, these people skills, even though the task feels impossible at times.
Hello, I'm Alex Ponomarov, and welcome to Thriving Engineering Podcast. In each episode, I talk about people from across the software development industry about AI. We're not talking about the headlines, the hype, the doom-mongering. Instead, we focus on honest conversations about how AI is actually showing up in day-to-day work. What's working, what isn't, and what others can learn from it. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Colette Molteni. Colette is in data analytics and governance, which means she's one of the people thinking hard about how AI gets deployed responsibly inside organizations, not just how it gets built. She also writes Empathy Elevated, a Substack newsletter exploring human skills for tech professionals. And she's a familiar face here on Thriving Engineering. She wrote a brilliant guest post for us earlier this year about what happens when a no isn't really a no and what it takes to get to the truth of it. She also just launched a paid tier of her newsletter, but I'll let her tell you about that. Colette, welcome to the podcast. Tell us about the changes in your newsletter. What's new?
Yeah. Hi, Alex. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, so the Empathy Elevated Substack newsletter, I've had it live for roughly about a year and a half. Very recently, I did adjust it. So we now have a paid tier available. There's a few benefits of that. One of the major benefits is access to the inference engine, which is essentially a vault of resources, documentation to take you play by play, essentially decoding the human side of working in tech, whether you're an engineer, an analyst, product manager, you name it. That part I know can always be a bit vague and ambiguous. I don't have fluff in there. I have steps that you can take for real results.
That's amazing. I think empathy is something that becomes increasingly more important as we get surrounded by AI and soon robots and so on. Tell us how is the reality of working in AI day to day affecting you? What does your day to day actually look like, and what changed in the last few years as things exploded?
Yeah, great question, Alex. And I'll be honest with you, my work, the nature of it day to day has changed. Not so much even in the last few years, really the past 6 months. It's changed drastically. And my role was more of a traditional sales operations role within a major tech company working in the SaaS division. And I was doing more of the usual in the background, working with stakeholders for building out of dashboards, working through troubleshooting within various programs, presentation to leadership about what we're innovating, what we are implementing. My work has transitioned, though, drastically in the past 6 months, where instead of talking about how we are going to provide direction to our stakeholders, often I work with leaders, customer success managers, sales, etc. It's more about, okay, how can we translate this information into the agent that we are going to provide for them to save them this time versus me just talking at them. I'm giving them a resource that they can leverage in real time based off the feedback I've received. So my job has transitioned from traditional building out of resources and building the AI resource that they can leverage.
That's very interesting. Do you feel the pace of change in your day-to-day work? Because something new is coming out every week, every day.
Yes, actually, and I had this conversation quite recently. even with some of the vendors that supply one of the programs that I work in very frequently, how there are changes now. It seems month to month. Even halfway through our deployment of one of our AI agents recently, the UI changed for the better. But we did have to go back and make some tweaks in the background to make it applicable to this new UI. Changes I remember early in my career, and I've been in the world of data analytics for over a decade now, where you saw changes in deployments. It seemed every year, every 2 to 3 years, a new version of something. You're now looking at every month, 2, 3 months, max in some cases.
Yeah, we just live in this constant change because before you could say, okay, there's this new technology came out, whatever it is. It was blockchain, right? Before that, we had big data and, mobile. But you could say, okay, it's going to take us, I don't know, maybe a year to adapt. Maybe it feels like this now. That's how I think. But now, never-ending change. We just live in it. We try to get comfortable there. I wanted to ask you how the environment around you changed, because we definitely all feel that, and this changes the human to human dynamics in the team. And I'm curious if you're noticing this, and how do you think we can help each other to just not just survive, but also thrive in this new environment?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. There are some things that have not changed. The things that have not changed, we still have to deal with office politics, corporate environments, different office cultures, whether you are remote, hybrid, in person, working with others, depending, different geographies across different time zones. That has not changed. Now, having AI in the picture, though, has enabled us to do some other things quite well. It's also, I think, in some other ways, it's made us not participating in other things quite as well either. Let me break this both down for us. One thing I think that it's done very well in terms of, I'll give an example, like in meetings, having a meeting note taker. Now, I still actually like to take some handwritten notes. I just find for my own comprehension, I like to have that. And even the AI note taker, any program I've used will almost always warn you, make sure to validate for accuracy. And I've seen that where it misinterprets something. I know from a very large meeting I was recently a part of, it referenced a program that we haven't even used in over a year. But because something in the conversation it picked up, it misinterpreted us. And it was like, revise this thing in this program, which we had no plans to do. Okay, so where it can come into be not so good. And this actually ties into the first point. If we are too reliant on it, where it is used as an excuse to perhaps zone out because, oh, I'm going to catch up on the notes later. Or I'm going to rely on this as if it is 100% truth, everything got documented correctly, and not take a critical eye to it. Because you look at something and maybe you're using an AI tool, you really do need to look. I don't shy away from leveraging AI perhaps to double check an email correspondence I'm going to send out. I had the other day, though, 3 times in a row where it was referencing an incorrect person on the chain. And eventually I just had to correct that one sentence. The rest of it was fine. But something like that could cause some friction, mistrust. Why are you referencing this? It could make that human interaction more complicated. So there's benefits and also areas where you can fall into pitfalls. It's a balance.
I'm also noticing that if you don't catch these little things, it kind of hurts the trust, because then people think, oh, you're just blindly copy pasting whatever AI tells you. So definitely interesting dynamic. Do you think, at least today, AI creates more problems in the workplace for us? And by problems, I mean like specific things that I see, for example.
Yeah, workload is part of it, or expecting more output, which it does help you to move quicker. But I think there are still some misconceptions about, depending on the AI tooling you are using, to what extent it can help you. For example, one of the things I always emphasize, and we have as part of our framework on our team where we deploy AI, is we have to have the foundation of the process and the tasks and be able to break it down into multiple parts. I come from a Lean Six Sigma background where we did this day in and day out, even before we were leveraging AI. Without that foundation, you cannot train an AI agent generally just to go out and guess. I mean, if that's the directive you're giving it to get advice, sure. But do not expect the AI you are building to do it better than perhaps, you could say, like an intern who's just starting on the job without much direction. You have to provide them directives on what to do. If you have a broken process to begin with, slapping an AI agent on top of it, if you have not worked through and done that groundwork, which is not as exciting as having the AI, you're not necessarily going to get the end result you want. So the problem, in summary, with that is there being a misconception when a problem arises, which perhaps is a process issue or a documentation issue or a staffing issue or a skills gap, where it's like, oh, well, can we build AI for that? What do you want to build the AI for? What are you tackling? What is the challenge? And then let's explore the AI. If you don't get past that, you have to get past that.
And it sounds like the misconception is that like this idea of we're not going to need humans with AI, and it, at least so far, it looks like we actually do need humans to manage the agents, to build a process around them. Kind of like you need, surprise, surprise, managers who seem to do nothing. They're just moving between the raindrops, don't really do anything, but somehow everything falls apart without managers.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly, as a manager myself, sometimes I look at my day and I'm like, where did my day go? On that topic, though, with AI and the human intervention you bring up, at this stage, yes. Will we see more autonomous AI in the future? I believe we will, and we already are in some places. What I interpret more as I look to the future, though, is, and we hear about it, the creation of more jobs as a result of AI, jobs we cannot even dream of today. I mean, truthfully, the work I'm doing now with working and coding AI agents and building this is something I would have never imagined growing up in my teen years. I would have never even, I had no concept of this. Back then I was teaching myself code and how to build websites, and I had no assistance other than giant books that I bought at the bookstore and testing. I had no vibe coding type technology available to me. And I think that's only going to exponentially increase what we are able to do.
Don't you think AI is taking the fun out of what we're doing day to day? Or maybe it's the contrary, and it actually makes us do more creative things and, does the routine for us.
Yeah, I think it depends on your role, truthfully. It depends on your role and what you personally extract your joy from and what you enjoy doing. Like personally, I've never liked the experience of going circles with my code and continuously getting an error and it being vague and not being able to figure it out. And AI does not always resolve it for me. But as of late, I have found working with AI to bounce my code off of and, hey, what am I missing? Or maybe it's just like a syntax error, something so silly because my coffee has not kicked in yet in my system and I'm not looking at it clearly. I find it very helpful for those types of things. The parts that I have found with AI that have really helped me, taking some of the effort out of having to make like a slide deck that I have to present. I have no issue presenting. I actually like presenting and getting up. I'm one of those odd people who actually likes to do it, like being able to share the message to a room and be able to talk about the work me and my team is doing. But I've been able to get rid of some of that drudgery of being able to put together the slides, like, oh, did I put these slides in the right order? And I know this is my audience. I know this is the room. am I stacking this in the right order? Is like a person who knows nothing about the topic. Does this make sense what I put together? And leveraging AI as a partner for that, I found that to be quite helpful.
Yeah.
Given I have the ultimate say, I'm the human. I know the emotions of the room and the personalities and people will face, but I have found that has helped me bring actually more joy to what I'm doing in my daily work. Being able to take care of those mundane tasks and have those handled, it frees up my time.
Yeah, I'm also in this camp. Do you remember in the early days of ChatGPT, there were stories of AI model breaking out of the researcher's computer and taking over something, like taking over the internet, something like this. Like, what do you think is real and what is hype today?
Yeah. I don't have a crystal ball, but I will say, just for me personally, I am enthusiastic about the future. For me, I view what is happening with technology, the next level of us leveling up as humanity. When we have these tools at our fingertips to take care of these mundane and more tactile tasks, we will free up more time to build community, go back to our roots of connecting with others and being less secluded, which I can be. I work from home most days, and sometimes I don't interact with other people in person, but I have found with AI, it being able to free up my time. Will that positive net benefit, though, come immediately? No. And right now, I'd honestly say we are in a bit of that growing pain stage where truthfully, there are jobs being lost. There are people who are going to have to reskill. Those new jobs are not being recreated just like that with a snap of the fingers. It's going to take some time for us to fully, I think, realize the benefits. We're seeing some benefits, but we're also witnessing loss. And those new jobs that are going to come about that we can't even dream of, the new time savings, the innovation, with it, we're going through that growth period. In terms of worst case scenarios, I mean, given I'm a big sci-fi person, I'm a huge fan of the Terminator series, so that too would give me some nightmares. And I do make jokes about it sometimes with Skynet or anything else. Do I think that's what we are facing? No.
Here is another question that I'm sure you will appreciate. In the beginning, you mentioned that yes, a lot of things are changing, but a lot of things are staying the same, like the team dynamics, the politics in the corporate world, and all these things. They're not going anywhere. There is this idea that organizations will become smaller. That because of AI, there will be larger number of companies, of products, and the teams will be smaller because one person will be able to do 20 things at a time and so on. Do you think in smaller teams that we'll see more of, the topic of politics and interpersonal relationships is less important than for larger organizations, larger teams?
Yeah, having worked in both small teams and larger teams, I've worked in a company of only about like 30 people, all the way up to like 30,000 people. I've worked in both extremes. So I'd unequivocally say, no, it's not less relevant. It just changes how you approach it, whether you are talking to an audience of perhaps one person, more like a one-on-one, versus talking to 5 people, or you're presenting to 500. It changes the dynamic of how you approach empathizing with your audience and kicking in your other emotional intelligence skills. But the skills are still relevant. It's just knowing how to adapt for that particular environment.
That is why your library that will be part of your of the paid tier on your newsletter will always be valuable and interesting. Do you think that we can draw parallels between how a manager works with their human team and with how you would manage AI agents? And of course, agents, they don't have emotions, and empathy per se is probably not applicable. But for me, empathy is about understanding how other people view the world and adjusting your message to be received the best way possible. Do you think skills like that are relevant when working with AI agents or LLMs?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's why. As much as the AI agent does not have feelings, of course, it only has like a textbook definition of empathy or emotional intelligence or how to read the room per se. But for you, as the person who is programming the agent, well, this agent is going to be people facing in the end, right? So you have to train that in to be able to at least take in the information, even though it's not feeling anything. You have to provide that human input. You yourself, though, aside from AI agents, if you're working with AI technology, if you are cool, calm, collected, and you are explaining your work in a manner that is understandable, even to this inanimate technology that does not feel anything, you're probably going to get better results versus being annoyed. And I mean, I guess, writing in all caps and being, irritated with it. That doesn't help you at all. It will mirror that back to you, and you will not get the type of work quality product you want. I've noticed this interestingly with somebody that I work with a very high degree of EQ, who is very detail oriented and also writes out things as if she is talking to a person and explaining it very clear and building upon a conversation when she's trying to build out something programmatically. And her results are significantly improved. Conversely, she also recognizes and has admitted, oh, I got so frustrated. It wasn't giving me what I wanted. And then it just stopped talking to me. Working with the chatbot, and that's not based out of emotion, right? It's not that the AI is angry at you. It's just, I suppose it's overloaded, or your directives are not clear at that point. So there isn't really anything to provide you back. So yes, understanding how to engage with other people is helpful and applicable to how you work with AI technology.
It's a very interesting direction. What I see among the engineers is that a lot of us are either introverted or just not great at communication for all sorts of reasons. But I'm noticing that how engineers communicate after working with Claude Code, Cursor, Codex is changing because, as you said, they get used to explaining themselves very well, providing the context. Surprisingly, you get better results if you provide good context. And they're like, oh, this is how it works. And now they're doing this with humans, with their teammates. Do you think that the result of the transformation that is going on, that we will see the result of the transformation in, let's say, in 2027, like a lot of people are predicting, or it's like we're very early in the process and it's something that already started, but most likely will arrive at where we're supposed to arrive in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. If I had to bet on it, I would say probably a few years, not 2027. I think we are getting closer to where we want to be in the transformation, and people talking openly about, hey, these are the limitations of AI. These are the advantages. This is what it can replace. This is what it cannot replace, and having that dialogue. But having that transformation where we want to see where, hey, you know what, let's say maybe, I'm just saying this hypothetically, maybe as humanity, we don't have to work as hard. Maybe we are down to that 4-hour a day work day, right? I mean, that would be fantastic. I think a lot of people would love that, to have more leisure time. Are we going to get there as early as 2027, 2028? Unlikely. No, not at the current trajectory. It will take more movement and transformation and collective change to see that happen. Could we get there eventually? No, never say never. I mean, we had our ancestors working before us, sometimes 12 or 14-hour days, farm work, very manual labor. Look how far we have come in even 100 years. And it really, blink of an eye, so quick. So never say never.
If you could give one advice to our audience, what would be the thing you would recommend them to focus on to thrive in the age of AI, but also to stay human and to stay empathetic and yeah.
Yeah. Well, you just named one of the words, of course, just as the name implies with my Substack, Empathy Elevated, elevating your empathy. What I would say is working consciously to do this. 98% of the population, we are capable of being empathetic. There's a small percentage that actually is not, but that's for another chat some other time. It can be learned. It can be developed, these people skills, even though the task feels impossible at times with the right tools, the right systems, and conscious effort. You gave that example earlier of some of the engineers that you've witnessed who are a little bit more introverted, or perhaps like the people part is a little bit tough. Very early in my career, I was silent in most meetings. I could not speak up. I felt that perhaps I was interrupting people. And then when I did speak up, I would often get puzzled looks. People didn't know what I was talking about. I've been affectionately called quirky before. I'm still sometimes called that, but only in a fun way because of my humor at times. But the point being that it's not magic. It's not some far off concept that is abstract. You can obtain it. And having that differentiating factor with your humanity, as you said, Alex, regardless of the technology, regardless of the era, this will continue to be relevant to you as a human, as your differentiator, as your strength, as we encounter on this new frontier where technology is changing monthly.
This is great advice. Thank you so much. I'm sure our viewers and listeners would appreciate it. Great. Colette, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great conversation. We're looking forward to read more of the episodes of your newsletter, and we'll enjoy your new library and paid membership. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for having me on. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.